Hey guys, you're watching Concept, and in this tutorial we're gonna make Android popular game, which is Stack Game. This tutorial will be blueprint based, and this is how it will look like. As you can see, it's pretty much same as the original game. So let's get started. Okay, let's create new project. It will be blank project, scalable 3D or 2D, no starter content, and we will call it Stack BP. I'm using Unreal 4.17, but it should probably work for older versions or even newer in the future. So let's first delete these. Okay, deleted. Now let's create a new folder which will be called meshes. Although we will have only one mesh, that will be our block, tile. And download the archive posted in down in description. And that archive will be called block. So extract it and drag and drop it into our meshes folder. Import all. Okay. So we will delete this base material instance. Okay. So we have our block. This will be our tile which we stack. So in our content we will create a new folder called blueprints. And we will make a new class, blueprint class of a pawn, which will be called stack spawner. This class will both include our camera and the spawning point. Now let's create a second class. This is an actor class, and this will be called tile. This tile class will only have static mesh, and that static mesh is gonna be our block. So we will say default scene root. Okay, we override it, save. Okay. Okay, so what's the main idea? This spawner should spawn at least 10 to 15 of these tiles. So let's say that we have that tile, first tile. So first will be on a 0, 0, 0. The next one will be on 0, 0, 10, and the next one is 0, 0, 20. So we will have to loop spawning. So for that we're gonna go to stack spawner, and we will say on begin play loop. So for loop, okay. So first index is 0 and the last index will be 15. So 15 loops, 15 of tiles we want to spawn. And we will say spawn actor from class. We will say class tile. So 15 tiles to be spawned. And on what location? This root is the root of our spawner. So let's say default scene root, and we will say get transform world transform and spawn it there. Okay, great. Now it will spawn on the same point. Now we have to move that scene root in the world. So we'll get that scene root and say set world offset. Okay, and we will say this make vector. So we want to offset it by 10 in the Z. Okay, so now it's offset by 10 in the Z. So first loop it will be on his original location, and after that it will be this spawner will be moved by 10, and so on and so on and so on. So every tile will actually be one on top of another. So let's try it. Let's put it here, and we hit play. You can see we spawned 15 of those one over another. One thing we want to do is to make a variable. So let's make float variable, and it will be called z value distance. Okay, let's compile, and we will say 10. Okay, that's great. And another value, this will be float, not float, integer. It will be number of tiles to spawn. Let's compile. Oh, sorry. And we will say 15. So let's get it. number of tiles to spawn, and set it to last index. So that's it for spawning. So the next idea is to spawn first on the left, and when you click, we're gonna spawn on the right. So let's do that. So to do that, in our project, we're gonna go to our stack spawner, and we will create two arrow components. This will be called left spawner, and this will be called also arrow, but right spawner. Make sure that this is not inside left, but in default scene root. Okay, so our left and right spawner. Left spawner will be on 200, and it will be rotated by 90. No, minus 180. And the right spawner will be on 200 in Y and rotated by minus 90. So as you can see, this is our left spawner and this is our right spawner. I use arrows just to make sure to have something to show me where does it go. Okay, so in this case we're gonna go left spawner, and we will say disable this hidden in a game, so we want to be shown in our game so we can see it. So as you can see, this is our left and right, and when we hit play, you will see that they are visible. So let's get back to our stack spawner. In our stack spawner, we're gonna create custom event, which will be called spawn tile. Okay, so this will be called after that loop is finished. So it will only spawn one tile, and that will be on that left spawner first, and after that on right spawner. For now we'll go only set to left spawner. So spawn tile, we'll say spawn actor from class will be tile. So we'll say make transform, and we will not get transform of left spawner, because transform also includes rotation, and we changed rotation. So we'll say left spawner get world location. Okay, and we will say location, so it will get location of that left, and let's see what we've done. So when we hit play, you can see that we have our tile on the left side spawned. The next thing we want to do is to move our tile which we spawned. To move it, we're gonna need to call a new function. It will be move tile. So this function will have inputs. The first input will be tile. So tile reference. It will be a reference to a tile, and it will be called current tile. Okay, the second parameter is gonna be delta time, not tile, time, and it will be float, and the third will be speed, and we'll say also float. So what's our goal here? We will say current tile set actor world offset. So we will offset it by some value, and that value is gonna be delta time times speed. So we need to offset it, and we will say make vector. Okay, so that will be delta time float. Okay, delta time times speed, but we will need a negative of that, and that's negative. We're gonna say minus negative float. Why negative? Because if we see in a game, if we go from this, for example, to left, you will see it needs a negative, so it can go from this to this point. So we need a negative, and we're gonna say here. Okay, oh sorry, and we will say we will move it by x, so that is an x. And let's see and in event graph we're gonna call tick. Tick function is function done every tick, so every delta second, and we will say where is move tile. Okay, so move tile every tick, move in delta seconds, and speed we will say variable tile speed, we will say float, and set it to 120. Now we also need a current tile. What is a current tile? The tile we spawn on left side, so we'll go here, and on spawn actor we will create current tile, and it will also be of tile reference, object reference. Okay, let's compile, and we will also need previous tile for future things. It will be same tile reference, so we will say current tile after it spawns, set that spawned actor to be reference in this reference. So we can say, in this case we can say current tile. Okay, we will feed that function, so it will move that tile, but that's delta time and that speed. Okay, let's try that out. As you can see, everything's working fine. Now we have to place that tile when we click. Now let's get back to our stack spawner, and we will say one thing where we will have to do is for current tile, let's copy it and let's paste it here. We will say is valid. So if it is valid, if it is a spawn, so assigned, as we see when this happens, we will then say branch. Okay, so if true, then move tile. Why is this important? Because it will start moving if it even doesn't have that current tile. So in this case, it's protected in one way. Okay, now we have to do one thing, that is to have our spring arm. We said that we'll have camera in here. So it will be in spring arm, we will say 500. Okay, let's compile, save, and we will see our spring arm camera. And we will go back to our camera in viewport. So in our camera we will go in our spring arm, and we will say let's rotate it. We'll need to rotate our spring arm. So in this 45, and in this I think it's 30. No, minus 30. Okay, let's compile, let's save, and let's say possess, and we will say player 0. So when we hit play, okay, something's not right. Oh yeah, this is very important. If you go to our spring arm, so we have to do collision test, disable this do collision test, because it will check if it is colliding, and it will be colliding with that all tiles. So if we see, we have our camera and it's all working great. Now one thing we could do is to set this camera to be orthographic. Okay, so when we compile and save, we will see it. Okay, everything's looking great. Now let's save our map. So we'll go to File, Save All, and we will call it Stack Map. Okay, let's save it. Now we'll go back to Blueprints, and we will say User Interface. We want to create that button. So this will be button. This button will stop movement of that tile. So we will say, okay, put it here, anchor in the center, compile, save, and to get it on a screen we have to go to Blueprints, open level blueprint, and we will say create widget. So let's create widget of button, and we will say add to viewport. This will add it to viewport to our camera. And now we have to do something, and that is UI setup input, set input mode to game and UI. This is important because we will show mouse, so we want it to be focused on our game, in our game, and we will say target get player controller. Okay, so don't forget to feed this with this widget, and also we will need to set mouse cursor, set show mouse cursor. Okay, so we will show it. Just double click it to put it like this. Okay, so let's show it, and that's pretty much all we need it to be shown, a button and our cursor so we can click. So if we go back into our game, so when we hit play, you will see we have that button. So we will go back to our tick and we will say that this is valid. Also need one more condition, so and we'll put this here, and we will say if it can move, then move it. So every tick, move it. Okay, everything's look great. Now by default this will actually be a false. So when we spawn it, when we spawn this, we will set it that it cannot, it can start moving. So if it can start moving, it will go to this tick function and check if these conditions are met and start moving. Now we have to activate when we press that button to run display tile and to set it to stop moving. So in that case we go back to our button and we go on pressed, and we will say get player controller, get owning, get pawn, get control pawn. So we want a pawn which this controller controls, that is that stack spawner, and we will say cast to stack spawner. Okay, and in the as stack spawner, move tile, not move tile, but sorry, place tile. So it will stop that movement. So let's explain why casting, because this gives us a controller class, but we pawn class. Sorry, this gives us a pawn class, but we need specific type of pawn, our stack spawner pawn. So we cast it to see if this control pawn is actually stack spawner, which is actually true because we set this to be controlled by our controller. Now let's try that in a game. So when we press, you can see that it stopped moving and it's placed. Okay, so next thing we want to do is when we place the tile, so tile is placed, we want to spawn another actor. So we will copy this. This is actually already done. So when it's placed, then offset this default scene root, actually this actor, and offset it by Z, so plus 10, as you can remember. And after that, spawn a new tile. So let's see how that looks. When we press, you can see it spawns another one. So it always spawns. We want one thing to do with the camera, that is to go, actually spring arm, I think it is. So let's say enable camera lag. So it doesn't go automatically, but it like gives that lag. Okay, so next things we want to do is not to spawn always on left side, but also on the right side. So first left, then right, left, right. We will do it by one bool. Now let's get back to our stack spawner, and we will create, before we create, we will call this B as boolean. So B is on left. By default we will say that this is true. So when we spawn, we will move this up. Okay. Okay, so we'll say branch. And B is on left. Okay, by default it's true, so if it is on a left, then spawn on left spawner, if you remember this. But we will also add if it isn't, so spawn on the right. But we have to move this all about here. Okay, so in other case, if it is false, then spawn on a right spawner. So get location of right spawner, spawn there. Okay, I think this is straightforward, so this should not make any complications. Just a little bit organize it. Okay, so if it is, then spawn it left. If it isn't, spawn it right. Now we will say also the same thing, so current tile will be the one which is spawned. Oh yeah, as you can see, you cannot set 2, so we'll have to say set, then this one is current tile, if that is true, and this one is. So either that be true, it will go here, false, it will go here. Now let's go back to place tile. So before we spawn tile, so this goes on left side, and when we press place tile, we will say that it should not be on left, so is on left is equal to false. So when it's equal to false, when it spawns new tile, it will not go by this but by this, so it will go to spawn that on the right side. So when we press play, as you can see, it works just fine. Now we have to do something. It will always spawn on the right side, and you see that it doesn't go the good direction. So in that case, what we need to do is go to R is on left. So if this is on left, branch is equal to true. So if it is on left and we placed it, then put it that it's not on left but it will go right. So if it is false, I think this is also straightforward. I don't know, do you understand it? But it's pretty much easy. If it is on left, set it that on right, so it is on left is false. If it isn't, then go to this one. You will see in a game now. Well, you can see that interchangeably goes left, right, left, right, left, right. Now all it's left is now to fix that movement. So we'll go to move tile, and we have to also make for left and for right. So in that case also B is on left. If that branch, so if that's true, then in that case we will go to this. We'll make this. We will move it on the left, so we will say okay, everything's good. We'll have to reorganize this a bit, so just to reorganize everything. Okay, now it's looking much clearer. And if it is not on left, if it is on right, we will copy this, and we will say it also needs a minus, so we will leave it as it is. And also same thing, but not in X but Y, so move it by Y axis, and that should be it, I think. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, let's organize it a bit. Okay, I will organize it later, but you understand it. Now let's go back to game and see Oh, something went wrong. Oh yeah. We didn't assign which actor, so move current tile. Okay. And also to organize this. I don't like so much blueprints because of this. It can get really messy. Okay, I didn't feed to move what to move. We need to move current tile. It moved our actor. So when we press play, okay, everything's looking great. So that's it for this part, and in next part we will talk more about math. It will be math heavy part, so we will have intersects, so we can divide our tiles so it can break and so on and so on. So stick with the concept, and we'll see in the next part.